And howdy, everyone. Welcome to Tilson Live. It is Tuesday. You are on Tilson Live. We are your host. I'm Eric Allard, part of the fourth generation of the Tilson family, joined, as I am each and every week, by our Vice President of Marketing Customer Experience, Mrs. Dawn Dancer. How are you, Dawn?
Good. How are you doing?
Doing great. So really excited for folks today. So welcome to Tilson Live, guys. We are streaming live on Facebook, live on YouTube, as we are each and every week. Jump in the chat. Tell us where you're watching from. Tell us where you're building. Tell us what you're building, what part of the process that you're in. We are here for you to talk about all things building on your land. So if you are considering building a custom home on your land, really anywhere, but certainly in the state of Texas, this is where we operate. We work for a company called Tilson Homes. Tilson Homes has been doing this for 90 years. We are a fourth generation family owned and operated company. And we happen to believe that we are subject matter experts. But not only we believe that, we have lots and lots of customers, like tens of thousands of customers that believe that we're good at this. So if you're thinking about doing this, you have come to the right place. We are here to answer all of your questions. But Dawn, especially today, what are we talking about? And why is this such an important part for people to learn?
So today we are talking about what is probably the most different thing about building a home on your land, which is actually getting the land part ready to build. Because usually when you're building a home or buying a home that already exists, all of the stuff that we're about to talk about has already been taken care of for you. So today we're going to talk about stuff that you just really don't even think about when you're usually moving into home, which is how do we get power to this thing? How do we get an address? How do we, do all the things? What is a Culverts? Just everything that is already done behind the scenes when you're building in a planned community that you get to navigate with us during this process because it is your land. So we need your help.
Yeah. So this is, like you said, this is the part that when you walked in that master plan community and looked at the vacant lot of where you were going to get to pick whichever of the three plans that you were going to put on there.
It's your choice of exterior.
That's right. With your choice of exterior to a degree. All of this stuff was done, right? The platting was finished. The zoning was done. The survey was probably already done. For sure it was done. Roads in, utilities, the infrastructure have already all been put in. The building permit is probably already pulled. Spoiler alert, you're not building a custom home. They've already pulled the permit. And all that's already done. It's a lot of the question that people have, like, why does it take so long to get started? We tell them there's this upfront period where we're having to do design and color selection and all that kind of stuff. And this is a big part of what's happening simultaneously when that's going on.
Right.
Is you are developing. Now, that's why I love what Don's done with the title of this. Like, you're developing the land. So in a master plan community, you have a developer, the land developer who bought the land 3, 5, 7, 10 years ago and started developing it or entitling it 2 or 3 years before they ever start selling those lots to a builder or a group of builders. This land development is what you have to do with your land. Luckily, we're here to guide you through every step of the way. And there's kind of a lot that needs to be done. That's okay. That's why we're here. So we're going to talk about that. But first, Dawn, there's got to be people watching this thing, right? Anybody joining us yet?
We have a few people joining us. We've got Lisa from Fort Worth building a plan to be determined in Bandera County next year. Awesome.
All
Thanks
right. We can help you determine that.
Yes. We got Charlie coming in from Tomball.
Welcome, Charlie.
We have Will checking in from Klondike.
Hey, Will. How are you, sir?
We've got Terry, who has a Tilson marquee, but is inquiring for her daughter's home. Awesome.
Oh, okay. Howdy, Terry.
All right. We've got Eddie. Howdy from Fort Worth.
Hey, Eddie.
We got Linda. Hey, Eric and Don watching in Arlington. Ken and I are building a Whitney D in Maypearl, and the cabinets just got installed over the weekend. Awesome. That's great.
Beautiful.
And I saw you sent us some pictures, so I'm excited to share those. And we've got Kathy. Howdy from Balance Ranch. Hey, Kathy. We've got Casey. Hello, building a driftwood in Burnett. Staking is next Monday. Awesome.
Oh, cool.
That's going to be fun. We got Julie. Hi from Plano. Hope to build sometime. All right. Well, hopefully we can help you do that. Too, yeah. We got Alfonso from Pflugerville.
Nice.
We have John, who is living in Kyle and building a rock wall in Driftwood. Awesome.
Very cool.
We've got Marcy checking in from Spring Branch. We've got Monica coming in from Katy.
Welcome.
And we've got Pisces Cancer coming in from Dallas. And then we have Alex coming in from Dayton.
Howdy, Alex.
And lastly, Brandon says howdy.
All right.
We got Hugh coming in from Austin.
Well,
Everybody's
we got lots of folks coming to watch about
We do have lots of people. We've got Anne watching from Rockport. Our house is scheduled to start this month. She's so excited. That is
very
exciting.
cool.
Congratulations. And let's see, Brandon's from Pearland.
Pearland.
And we've got Terry coming in from Huntsville.
All right. Well, guys, y'all are in for quite a show because there is a lot to be done on the site prep. We're gonna talk about some documentation. Of course, we'll let Dawn just get into it because people are still rolling in. So, guys, keep dropping in the comments about where you're watching from, where you're building. We will get to all of them. Any questions that you have, guys, that's what this show is here for. We're here to answer your questions, make sure that you have all the information you need to make the best decision for you and your family. You got anything that's holding you back or that you're wondering about, that's what we're here for. So, Dawn, without any further ado, the people are jumping in. Y'all keep jumping in. Tell us where you're watching from. Tell us where you're building. Ask your questions. We're going to get started on this, and we will answer all of your questions.
Very cool. All right. So developing a land for building your home. So overview, we're just going to talk briefly about our history for anybody who's new, kind of go over some of that stuff that Eric was talking about. And then we're going to talk about the general process of build on your land, talk about the pre-construction responsibilities, all the important documents and paperwork you're going to need, how you go about getting utilities. We'll talk about site access as well as site planning and preparation. And so like Eric was saying, we are Tilson Homes. We have been in business for 90 years, and we are the most experienced rural builder in Texas. So if you're looking for somebody who knows their stuff, you have found us. We were founded in 1932, and we have been Texas family owned and operated for 4 generations. Eric is part of that 4th generation. And we have built over 40,000 homes on our customers' land throughout the state of Texas. So we've done this a couple of times, know what we're talking about. And on average, around 10 families per week move into a new Tilson home.
Yeah.
So build on your lot. What that means is we're building on property you own. So you might call it a lot. You might call it your land. It might be a farm or ranch. We might be doing your retirement or second home, or could be lake property. Just wherever you've found that special piece of land that you want to build on, that is what we are here to do. And the key factor in all of this is that you own the land, not us. So that's why we're talking about all the things that we're talking about today, because since it's your property, we need you to take an active role in it.
Yeah, and a lot of this stuff is going to vary a little bit across the state. It's hard to paint with a broad brush what happens in every single corner of the state of Texas because it's a big state and things are done very differently. But these first couple of slides about documentation and stuff, this is pretty spot on that you're going to need in just about every situation. And then as we get into more of the utility stuff, then we'll get to some of the different things that are done. But Don's going to talk about some paperwork and documentation that has to happen before all that.
All right. So responsibilities. We property, we don't have the right to do a lot of these things. Like only the person who owns the property can do this stuff, which is why we're here to help you, but we need your involvement. The first thing we're going to need you to do is request a 911 address from your county. That is just to protect you and our crews if anything happens. 911 needs to know where to find us. So we need to tell the county we are going to be building a home on this land, and here is that address to get to us. The second thing is utility setups. A lot of times getting power, if you're dealing with public water or all of that, you're going to need to grant some easements. So that's why we need you guys involved, because we don't own the property. We don't have the right to give any rights to the property away. So we need you as the owner of the land to go ahead and grant those necessary easements and establish that account with power, water, in some cases sewer, but usually our customers are on septic. Permit application filings. In some counties, we can completely do this process for you, but in other ones, again, they only want the property owner doing this, so we can help you fill out all that paperwork, but we're going to need you to actually submit that. And then other responsibilities are all the items that weren't included in the base price of your home that you chose to do instead of us. So this is going to cover things like site clearing, septic systems, establishing access to the site, so putting in your construction driveway, all of those kinds of things. So before you build, we're going to need some necessary items, and the first one is going to be some important documents, and then Eric's going to take you through utilities and site access, and then I'll talk about site plan and preparation. So on those important documents, you're going to need your deed and your title insurance. You're going to need a plat and a survey, and then you're also going to need a copy of any deed restrictions or community requirements that are on your land. So talking first about the deed to the property. What this is it's just the piece of paper that says, hey, you own this land. So it is your proof of ownership. So in order for it to be a valid deed, it's going to have a few things. The first is listing out the grantor, which is the seller, and the grantee, which is the buyer, and that should be you. Whoever is on this document as the buyer is the one who has to be on our agreement. So very important that we have all of that information correct. It's going to contain the property description. So it's going to describe exactly what plot, where it is, how to find it, all of that good stuff. It may contain an agreed upon price, but not necessarily. A lot of times it's, family lands being passed, so there may not be any money exchanging hands. So that's not necessary. Might be on there though. The seller's signature on there is going to have to be notarized. And we also need an indication on there that it was recorded in order for it to be valid. So you and your friend just writing on a piece of paper, hey, you own this property, isn't good enough. We got to go to the county. We got to file it official so that we have a good deed of, line of ownership so that we can get property insurance, title insurance, which is what we're going to talk about next, I believe. So title insurance, always, 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 when you are acquiring a piece of property, even if it's a present, make sure that when you're transferring that deed, you get a title insurance policy. Because what this does is it guarantees that chain of ownership. So it goes all the way back to the beginning and tracks who owned this piece of land and make sure that it was all transferred legally and clearly from the very beginning up until we get to you. So that's just making sure that we have you've got a clear title. No one's going to come back to you and say, hey, grandma's uncle's cousin actually owns this. We're just, you're going to be protected against that kind of stuff. Make sure that you don't have any disputed liens, judgment. There wasn't work completed on the property that nobody paid for, that we owe money on. So just great idea to get yourself protected. So you're going to want to request that policy from your title company as soon as an earnest money contract is signed. And that's going to save you a lot of headaches down the road.
Yeah, and by the way, that's something that if for some reason they research the title and they won't give you title insurance, in other words, they've discovered something, you'll need to get that remedied. Or if you haven't bought the property yet, definitely they require them to get it remedied. And if you have bought it, you'll have to get that remedy before we can go to construction.
Yes, exactly. The next thing you're going to need is a boundary survey, and this is going to be a drawing of the property. It's going to show where the corner pins are, and you're going to want to make sure that you can actually locate those and they are flagged on the property itself. The other thing this survey is going to show is all these invisible lines. Well, they're all invisible lines, but then there's going to be invisible dotted lines that is going to cover things like your building lines. So building lines, easements, and setbacks. So these are all the areas of your property that even though you own it and you get to take care of it, you can't construct anything that's permanent on it. So you need to be aware of where those are. So in this case, this survey has a building line that says that we have to be so far back from the front and so far forward from the back of the property, just to make sure you're buying your land, to make sure that you're not holding hands with your neighbors through your kitchen window. We got to make sure that we're set back properly. So that's what that triangle that Eric is showing you guys is. That's the area in which you can build the house. So that's where your permanent structures are able to go. It's also going to show any type of utility easements, those types of things that the electric company might have access to, the water company might have access to, any kinds of other stuff that's kind of been granted to other people. Again, it's your property. You can use it. You just can't put any permanent structures over that dotted line. It's also going to show you all of the dimensions for the property. Should also show flood information for your flood zones. And it's going to have that nice seal at the bottom, the seal and signature, showing that it was actually done by a registered professional licensed surveyor.
Yeah, so in this example, the bold line on the outside is the actual property line. So this person owns all the way to here, right? They can run their chickens, and they're certainly going to pay taxes on it, all that good stuff.
Yes.
But as far as usable, where you can build house, garage, pool, outbuildings, it's inside this dotted line imaginary box. So something to think about whenever you're planning on what kind of home that you're going to be building.
Yes. And then the last thing, last piece of paperwork that we're going to want is your deed restrictions and your covenants. And these are going to vary depending upon where your land is located. And it's going to designate all of your home design requirements. They're going to list things just depending upon how particular the community is. It's going to list out things like a minimum square footage. Some of them, particularly if you're dealing with lakefront property, have a maximum height of your home that you can build because you don't want to destroy anyone else's view. It's going to list any requirements for the materials that's used on your home. So what percent can be siding, what counts as masonry, what percentage of masonry does there need to be, what type of roofing is allowed. It's going to list out any type of garage requirements. Does it have to be attached? What direction do the bays have to face? All of those kinds of things. And then any guidelines for plan approval. So if there's an architectural review committee, all of that should be listed in those documents. This is another thing I highly, highly recommend you get a copy of before you purchase the property, because you want to read it and make sure you're willing to live with all of these requirements. Because when you buy it, this is what you're agreeing to. Some of them also have requirements for construction, including any type of necessary deposits that we need to put down. Is a dumpster required? How long do you have to do construction? All of those different types of things. We're seeing how heavy the trucks can be when they come in, all kinds of things. So make sure that you have all of that documentation and you provide it to us so that we can go through it.
Exactly. Now, before we get into this, you want to stop and ask? I think we've got some questions or other folks that have jumped in.
Yes, I think we've got some questions. We definitely have some extra people that joined because they were still coming. So I wrote down where we stopped so we could pick back up. We got Marcy soon to start on a San Antonio plan in Spring Branch.
Wonderful.
We've got Phyllis and Marvin and Colleen. They're building in Bosque County. We've got Kenny from Burleson, Texas in Johnson County.
Welcome.
We have Christy in Farmersville building the Velasco.
Very cool.
We've got Leslie, just signed our contract this weekend, building a San Gabriel in Floresville. So excited. Yay, that is exciting.
Welcome to the
family. We've got Kathy, hi from Bastrop County. We've got Robert, hello, Avant, Texas, building a LaSalle. Sheetrock is being installed. Awesome.
Oh, nice. It's about to take shape. It's going to get real big real quick.
Yes. We've got Will. I'm going to try to return back soon. Got several small projects to work on and some is cleanup. Congratulations to all who are building a Tilson home. They are very good and very informative. Y'all have a blessed day and week as well. Oh, thank you,
Thanks,
Will.
Will. Appreciate it, man.
We've got Monica. So if you have a loan on your property, you can't build on it until you have a clear title.
Good. Very good question, Monica.
Good question,
so
yes.
The answer with Tilson is you can still build on it. So you can have what's referred to as a lot payoff or a land payoff. So you do have clear title, most likely. The lender, whoever loaned on that property, would have required that. The only encumbrance on title that's going to show up is it's going to say, and I'm just going to pull, First State Bank of whatever, small town Texas. Okay. And let's say that's the lender that you're paying the loan to. They will have a lien. You have probably what's called a warranty deed with vendor's lien. And what that means is you are entitled to the property. You are the listed landowner, but there is a lien in place from whoever's loaned you the money to buy that land. So what all Tilson would require is that you qualify for enough of a mortgage to cover the contract price of the home plus whatever you still owe on the land. So as long as you qualified for a loan that could pay off the contract price of the home we're building for you and whatever balance you owe on the land, then Tilson, we can come through and build. So that's a great question. So it is kind of a hybrid situation where it's not a disputed title situation, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's simply notified that, hey, just so you know, you still owe these people $58,000, whatever the number is. That you will not, and the lender, whoever's loaning you the money for the permanent mortgage for the home, is going to say, that's all good. As long as you qualify for enough, we'll pay off both parties. We'll pay off Tilson for the home they're building for you, and we'll pay off First State Bank of Small Town Texas for the land loan. And then you will have one note that you pay to your permanent mortgage lender. Great question.
title insurance is we don't want to find any surprises. So
Yeah.
that land loan you would know about. We're talking, back in time. You don't want to get surprised that there was still a lien that somebody else had put on the property in place. All right. We've got Carolyn Howdy from Austin building the Travis in Fredericksburg, breaking ground in November. Awesome. That's exciting.
Very nice.
We've got Lacey. Hey there from Waco.
Lacey.
Hey, Lacey.
Welcome.
And Robert is sharing that Dustin figured out his dormer issues. He was concerned about seeing the framing in the dormer of his LaSalle. So great. That's good to hear.
Awesome.
Let's see. We've got Monica says, thank you. You're welcome. We have a friend from YouTube. This is great info. We just signed the contract for our Cypress B in Leon County. Awesome. That's great.
Cool.
We got Alfonso. I've got 11 acres. Does the new loan include the balance on the full 11 acres plus construction cost, or does 1 acre have to be carved out first?
Okay, Alfonso, 1 acre does not have to be carved out first necessarily. Not with us. I know with some construction lenders, they do require that, but Tilson does not require that, and our lenders don't require that. You can roll the balance. So long as you can qualify for that balance, in addition to the contract price of the home, you can roll the balance of the whole 11 acres in to your permanent mortgage. So we have some customers that do want to carve out acre. Maybe they don't want to put it all up, but it does have to be enough to count for the 10% to avoid a down payment. So if 1 acre, in a lot of cases, 1 acre is not always quite enough from a value standpoint. And also some lenders don't want it, like if the lender on the land, for instance, they may not be willing to do a partial release of lien. They may not be willing to partial release 1 acre to you, depending on how it carves with the property. So, but we can help walk you through that. We can make a call to your lender and figure that out for you.
Okay, perfect. We've got Ann saying howdy.
Howdy.
And she is in the final stages of her Granberry. Awesome.
Nice. Very cool.
Nice. We've got Terry asking, so what happens if you've purchased property but didn't have title insurance?
Well, it's the end of the world. I'm just kidding. It's not the end of the world. It is not the end of the world. No. So what the first thing that we're going to do, really, whether you have a title policy or not, when you get ready to decide which home you're going to build and ready to enter into an agreement with Tilson, we are going to immediately take whatever deed information that you have, and we are going to open title. So we're going to send it over to a title company, typically someone local to that county. We're going to send them the legal description of the property, your names, our names, all that kind of stuff. And they're going to, and it's not a credit check. Okay. This is totally different from the loan stuff. This is simply, it is kind of an audit on the history of the chain of title on the land is exactly what it is. So the title company is going to open title. Doesn't mean anything to you. We don't have to do anything, and they're going to go back and do that research, and they will tell us, and so you'll get a copy of it. We'll get a copy of it. Typically the lender that you're going with gets a copy of it. And again, all this is before we ever start construction. This is way before we start construction. Right. And they're going to tell us, hey, everything is good. Everything's on the up and up. You're good to go. There's nothing. Or they may say, hey, there's a judgment from 1968 where they didn't mow the lawn and the neighborhood association put a judgment on it. Or they're going to say, hey, there is, we're showing that this person had a divorce, back when they owned the property. So this person over here has an undivided 1/2 interest from 1989. We need to know, we need to see a divorce decree where they gave their interest over, which is usually we have that. Or somebody has that handy. Just, in a lot of hands, what'll happen, or someone dies, and in Texas, the way that it works is if you have property in multiple counties, and whether you get divorced or someone passes away or whatever, that divorce decree or that death certificate or that probate has to be recorded in every single county. The counties don't talk to each other. They're up to each other, but they do not talk to each other. So you have to record that in every county in which the property, that person's estate is affected. So a lot of times that's what happens. So that's what happens, Terry. We open it up and we'll let you know if there's anything at all that has to be taken care of.
Yep. All right. Perfect. Then we have a question. What if there's an existing house on the property due to an inheritance?
Well, I would say congratulations. That's awesome. And so a couple of things are going to happen. You may have to do what's known as a survey out, like we spoke about earlier, which could involve a replat. If you're paying cash for the new home that you're proposing to build, it doesn't matter. If you're getting a loan, and it is a Fannie Mae backed loan, which your conventional FHA, VA, TextVet, all that, they are not going to typically allow 2 single family residences on one piece of collateral property. That's a federal guideline thing. So sometimes, like, the house can physically stay there, but you have to draw an imaginary line that says this is tract 1A and we're building on tract 1B, and they're not the same piece of property, and this is not part of the deal. Where the house is currently sitting, this vacant piece of property is all that's part of the deal. And in some cases, we can have them view it as like storage or even a casita or something like that. Depends on the proximity to it. So really, that the appraiser starts to get involved and say, hey, what can we classify this other structure as? Because if it truly is a second home, they're probably not going to let those 2 be on the same piece of collateral property. We do this sometimes when people have a mobile home there. They either have the mobile home hauled away about 2 weeks prior to closing, because again, they can't both be on the same piece of collateral property, or they'll do a survey out where they truly draw, like Don said, an imaginary line where they cut that part of the property out of whatever deal that we're talking about doing. So there's a lot of solutions that we can help you with.
Okay, great. We've got Angel, who's hello from Lee County. We're in the process of building the canyon. Awesome. And Terry says, thank you so much for the information on the title insurance. Awesome.
Well, now we're going to talk
Eric, you want to talk about utilities?
Let's do that. Guys, keep dropping your questions into the comments. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to answer every single one of your questions. We know that this part has a lot of moving parts to it, and it's stuff that doesn't always have to be done a whole lot, so it's hard to get good at it if you don't do it all the time. So obviously, we're going to need some things, not only to build the home, but also for you to live in the home. So utilities are a big part of this development part, because they don't just happen, with the snap of a finger. They take time. And right now they take more time, shocker, than they ever have before. Because a lot of the things are hard to get, like transformers that you're seeing up here at the top. Those are like 50 to 54 week lead times on some of these things in a lot of areas. Water meters, all that, septic systems. So we're going to walk you through kind of how to go about doing this. And really the overarching theme is going to be, you can't start on these things early enough. There's no reason to wait on any of these things. Power is a big one. It's probably taken the longest right now, particularly permanent power. So we've got some examples to show you guys. I would disclaim already, the next 2 slides after this, Dawn did not get to make pretty and decorate. I threw these in there like 4 minutes before we started this. So if it's ugly, it's on me. If it looks great,
they're crooked, they hurt my heart.
It's because it's Dawn. Right. So fully disclaimed. Determine who's providing the power. Is it a co-op? Is it a large provider like a CenterPoint or TXU or Encore, Austin Energy? But you're going to need, in all cases, we highly recommend, in some cases it's mandatory, but that you meet a representative at your property. Get the power company to send a rep out there to take a look at what you're trying to do. And when you're under contract with us, we'll meet you out there with them. And so everybody has a very clear lay of the land of how this is going to come to be. We will need some type of power to actually build the home. In some cases, it's going to be temporary power, which is what you're looking at here. This is what's known as a temporary pole. So the power is coming from way in the back here. You can see the transformer on the power company's power pole. There's power lines coming across here. And then they have installed poles leading all the way up to the home site. This customer's done a bang up. It looks like this is like football field, like beautiful job of mowing. And then our electrician has come out and set a T-pole, a temporary pole. That's why it's got these braces on there. Still has a meter can, has a meter on it, has a couple of outlets and plugs on there for our contractors to use for air compressors and saws and all that kind of good stuff. I guess these days charging batteries, running a microwave from time to time for lunch, that kind of good stuff. And then once the home is finished, we'll have the permanent service built on the home, and this guy will go away. That's why there's all this wire coiled up here, because that will eventually go either overhead to the home if it has overhead power, or it'll come down this pole and then underground to the house. Now, that being said, here's another couple of examples. So this is permanent power coming from back here to a T-pole that'll eventually be converted to permanent. These next two are in 2 completely different areas of the state of Texas. This is a Mid-South Synergy pole in the greater Grimes County area. This is Pedernales Electric Co-op out in, like San Antonio, San Marcos area. But they're very similar solutions. So in this case, the power again is coming overhead through the property, like it's already going across the property down an easement, a 20-foot wide utility easement. And there's a transformer up here that you can't see. Use your imagination. There's a transformer there, and then that power comes down the pole. You see all the dirt's disturbed because they trenched underneath here and they set this pedestal. And this is the meter is on here. There's plugs on both sides. There's outlets here and on the other side. So you don't need that temporary power pole because we have outlets on here for contractors to work on, to plug their tools into. And then when the home is built, there'll be a gray pipe like you see over here that comes out of the bottom and goes underground to the building, to the house. So all that will be on the house, and either inside the house or just on the outside, is the breaker box. The meter will always and forever be right here. Very similar to what PEC has required here. This is what's known as a rack system. So you see these are actually galvanized poles set in concrete, and these are electrician's rack system. And then same thing. In this case, the power is actually coming from underground. So very similar to where it's coming here. It's going into the pedestal here. This is PEC's, Pedernales Electric Co-op's meter. This is a very sophisticated lock system called a stick that they stuck
I noticed
there.
that. Yeah.
That is a stick. Yep. That it was laying probably right here, and then they put it there. And then this is where the service of the home connects to the power. Then it comes out of here. You can kind of see the depression in the ground where it goes to the home. So these are, again, just different examples. It's done different ways across the state. That's why we're trying to show you guys examples. And then here's an example of what's known as a member-owned pole. Again, this is something that PEC and other co-ops do. So this one, again, the power is coming overhead. So this, the pole will be here. This is the meter will be on here. The meter can and the meter will be here. Here's the breaker box. And you see that they're pouring concrete. They're placing the slab while this picture is being taken because this is wet concrete and this is not quite done concrete. And then this will be the power for this home. And again, it kind of depends on where you are. It depends a little bit on what the neighbors are doing. And it depends most greatly on whatever the power company says. Because they have their requirements and they do not deviate from them, and they're different.
So the last three pictures that we saw, those are permanent. That's what it's.
That's right. All three of those and this one are permanent. This is it. This will be the power.
And then what happens with the temporary one?
So this,
when we get to the end,
this goes away, and then there'll be a service built on the home itself. So in this particular case, this meter. We will end up building a meter can on the side of a home, which would be a great picture for next time. We'll have a meter can on the side of a home, and then either right inside or right beside that will be the actual breaker box. But in this case, the meter itself would be attached to the house, and then this whole thing is gone. And again, it could either be overhead or it could be underground from this particular case.
Okay. All right, and then we do have a question.
Do it.
About power. Yeah. If you are trenching your own lines to the house, what exactly does that entail?
So for water, it's pretty simple. You just need to have a trench. I would recommend no less than 2 feet deep from the source, whether it's a well or the water tap, all the way to where the water stubbed out of your home. 1.5 inch, 1.25 inch PVC is plenty, up to about 200 feet. Then beyond that, I'd go up to 2 inch. Electrical, it's going to be a double different deal. Number one, check with the co-op, check with your power provider, because a lot of times they have specs and in different areas. Like I know Mid-South they want 3 feet of depth to the pipe. And in some cases, places want 4 feet. So I read one that wanted 5 feet. So you need to find out first if the co-op has their set of specifications. And that's a real easy phone call to them, tell them where you're building. Or again, when you meet the rep out there, great question to ask them. And then from that point, all it entails is that they will also have specifications on what they want used typically. what size conduit, the depth of the conduit, the gauge of the conduit, whether it's their schedule, it would be, is it schedule 40? Is it schedule 80? Does it need to be 2-inch, 2.5-inch, 3-inch? And then also what size wire are they going to pull the wire through? And again, this varies from place to place. In some cases, if you do the trench and the conduit, they'll pull the wire. So whether it's number 2 or number 4 or whatever size wire that you need, depending on the distance. But the biggest thing is check with your power company. Find out what they provide, what they don't provide. And if you can, meet them out there with your Tilson representative so that we're all singing from the same hymnal and understand who's doing what and what it needs to be. And so that everybody's prepared. It doesn't cause delays further on down the road.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about water.
Let's talk water, because we are going to want to have running water for all this is done. Guys, keep asking your questions. Keep putting them in the chat. We guarantee we'll get to them. I guarantee it. I don't ask Dawn to guarantee that. I guarantee it. Anyway, so first of all, it's going to either be a water well, which means the water is obtained from directly below on your property, or you're going to have some type of a community water or city water, which is where you'll see a tap like this. So this is a water tap. They vary in size. I've seen anywhere 5/8, 3/4, 1-inch, all that. Whatever they provide. There's a meter that gauges how many gallons you're using. That's how they bill you. This is where they'll turn it and lock it out if you don't pay them. And they can also remove the tap if they don't. This is actually a pressure tank. This is not all of the water that you're ever going to get. All this does is all the water is down this hole. There's a lot of people, so this is the well itself. This 4-inch diameter piece of concrete that's going down, that's housing the plumbing, is going down anywhere from usually 180 all the way down to 550 or so feet in Texas. Here's our pressure gauge. Here's a switch, and the water comes out of here and goes on to the house. So all this is a pressure tank. So it's only full to about here, and the rest of this is a big air bubble that keeps pressure on there so that you have, enough to wash your dog or wash your hair. Anyway, in case you need to wash something,
wash your face.
Wash your face. Yeah, you wash your mouth out with soap. Anyway, so it's going to be one of those two. You find out who's the provider is and how early you need to get into that. Sewer or septic, like Don said, about 91% of what we build, our homeowners are on a septic system. So if you are in a city, you're probably going to be on a sewer, although that's no guarantee. But otherwise, if you're one of the other 91% of people we build for, you're getting some type of a septic system. It may be conventional, it may be aerobic, and then there's various kinds of aerobic systems. So this will be determined kind of after our site evaluation meeting. We will get with a registered sanitarian, depending on who's doing the septic system, and they will design a system for your specific home, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, how many gallons per day it's going to need based on how much your soil can handle as far as percolation, all those calculations that are determined by the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, TCEQ. So there's some math that goes into that those registered sanitarians crunch to determine what size system and how many sprinkler heads, or if it has to be a drip system where it can't be a surface application, that kind of thing. That's all determined by the registered sanitarian. And then the county has their own guidelines. So this is, a septic permit. This is, even there are some places still that don't have building permits, but everywhere in Texas, you have to have a septic permit. Almost every county that we operate in has a county has a designated office that does the septic permitting. If not, on the rare occasion, it's done by TCEQ in Austin. No, it's not fast. I know this is my shocked face. Anytime you send it to Austin to get something done, it is not fast. But even the smallest counties typically have some type of a septic design system. We submit the design to them, and typically they're not going to dispute what the designer designs. I've seen it very, very rarely will they do it. And it's usually the more larger, pretentious counties like Fort Bend or Harris or something like that. I think they know better. But anyway. Shout out to all my friends in Fort Bend and Harris counties. But anyway, they will issue a permit and then we can go. Lastly, about 85% of our customers are total electric. But we do have a lot of folks that do that source. I'm talking about that, like the main heat for the home. But we have a lot of folks that'll do, gas at the fireplace, things like that. But propane tanks here, if you're going to do propane or natural gas, if you don't have access to natural gas, in other words, aren't natural gas meters, then if you do still want gas, you will have to have some type of a propane tank. We have two examples here. One is an above ground tank. One is a below ground tank. Spoiler alert, they're basically the same tank. Just one's above ground, one's below ground. Exactly. And it has a gauge on it, just like your car, telling you how much fuel you got left. And in a lot of these cases, you can lease the tank or you can buy the tank. Usually the lease, obviously they take care of the maintenance. And also sometimes there's a discounted rate on the fuel if you do that. If you can, fill it up in the summertime if possible. Gas is always cheaper then. Do not make a deal and get your gas from Russia, because you will be in big trouble and you will have a hard time getting gas. That's going to happen here in the next couple of months in Europe. They're in for a real treat. But anyway, the beautiful part about it is with propane is that when you pay for the gas, that's it. Like you've paid for it, and until you run out of that, you bought it at a fixed price. It doesn't matter what the price of gas does over the next 6 or 8 months. You bought it. So there's some economies of scale to that. And then extremely important is site access. Okay, how are we getting in and out of this thing without destroying the place? We do require the all-weather access. We require the customer put that in, or we can put it in. We can bid it for you, have it put in. This is what we mean by all-weather access. Not a pig trail through the trees. We're talking heavy equipment. Concrete trucks, lumber trucks, delivery trucks, forklift. Piggyback trucks. Large equipment needs to be able to get in and out of there. So you have to, a lot of cases you need to put a culvert in. You can kind of see the very outside edge of the culvert in this photograph. This is it from a profile view. So you've got it's just a pipe in the ground in the ditch that water can flow through. Otherwise, it's called a dam, and that's a bad thing. So you don't want to dam up water flooding back your neighbors uphill from you. Also, it will eventually compromise and wash this out. So you get a culvert installed. Nicely. The county is going to typically determine the size of that 12-inch, 18-inch, 24-inch diameter. And then they typically have a maximum length that you can do. Most of them's plenty. It's over 20 feet, which is plenty. 16 would be the minimum I would ever do. That's not true. 20 would be the minimum I'd ever do. 16 is probably the minimum that we could actually build on. Because you've got to be able to, for large vehicles to make a turn. We're not talking about, just a small SUV, large trucks with trailers. So if you got questions about that, ask us, because we can help you. Should we pause for questions? Speaking of which,
yes, we've had quite a few come
idea.
through. So
we're gonna do that.
Yeah, I'm glad you thought of that. So the person who's asked us before if there was already a home on the site, she's asking, but what if we want to demo the original home and build a new one?
Then do it. Yeah, then there's no issue whatsoever.
As long as there's no loan on that house.
Great point.
Yeah, you're good to go. We've got Julie sharing that she has windows on her site. So take that, supply chain issues. That's awesome.
Victory. We'll take
Victory. All right. We've got Hugh off topic. With all the rain last week, what are the procedures of preventing mold and water damage since the roof isn't done? And if there's water and mold inside the house?
Yeah, so Hugh, that's indicative of a house under construction. The good news is the trees did grow outside, so this is not the first time they've been exposed to moisture. It's when it gets rained on and rained on and rained on for months and months and months on end, and we can't get it dried in. That's when you're going to have a problem. But it is perfectly normal, aside from the last 4 months, to have rain during construction, and for your frame to get rained on and the slab to get rained on. It is not gonna. It doesn't do harm to it. It's not uncommon to have mildew. Okay, a lot of people when they see it in their bathroom that they're not cleaning, it's called mildew. When they see it on their house, that they see it's mold. They're not the same thing. What you're probably seeing is mildew, which for mold to continue to grow, it has to have a constant moisture source. That's the biggest difference between mold and mildew. Mold has to have. And that's why you'll typically find mold where there's a leak, like a roof leak or a slab leak or something like that. That's when mold becomes a problem, because it has to keep getting more moisture, which obviously once we dry the house in, put the rhino liner on there, put the shingles on top of there, it's not getting any more moisture. If you have some concerned areas, get some pictures to your building superintendent, and we can certainly come out and take a look at them. But to be perfectly honest with you, it is not like my house got rained on. We were building it, and my family is still all okay as far as I know. From a mold and mildew perspective, we have other issues, but they have nothing to do with moisture getting in the house. But yeah, it's normal, and there's nothing major that needs to be done at this point. We have not. I can tell you, there's nowhere in the state that's had enough moisture to do any level of long-term damage to any of these frames. It's when it happens, and it just sits for months and months and months. That's when you have to be. And even then, there's chemicals that they make. We try to avoid using those if we can. That you can spray that'll stop, obviously kill the mold if that really is an issue. Sometimes just a 50-50 bleach and water mix sprayed out of a backpack spray bottle is enough to do it. But again, the biggest thing is stopping the consistent source of the moisture. That'll stop mold.
Yep. Okay. We have a question from YouTube. At what point should we get a quote for flat work? I love Tilson Tuesdays. Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So if you're just paying out, if you're doing a loan, it needs to be done very, very early on. If you're putting the loan, if you're just paying it out of pocket, I'd really start to look at that once the outside of the home is complete. So if you're having brick or stone on the house, once the brick or stone is complete, and probably once the septic is installed, unless it's on a completely different side of the home. But I would wait till all of that stuff is done, because I get concerned with stuff getting tore up. So, obviously there'll be heavy equipment coming back in there to do the slab placement. Not as many concrete trucks, but it doesn't take but one to do significant damage. They weigh 80,000 pounds. So I would wait till the septic's installed, have the sprinkler heads clearly marked where the drip irrigation lines are for the septic system, and where the septic system itself is. It should be pretty obvious, but nothing beats big.
It never hurts.
Yeah. Yellow and orange neon tape and signs that say "None shall pass." Those are always good things. You can't overdo it. And then come out and start. And then that's when I invite people to come out and start doing quotes for that.
Okay, perfect. Monica's asking if you can have your holding tank in your garage, and that she put that up when we were talking about water.
You can, yeah, you can. We'll need to know ahead of time, obviously, because I wouldn't recommend it come in the slab necessarily. I would have it just come through the wall. That way, if you did have to work on it for some reason, it would be much, much less invasive to do that. But yeah, there's nothing at all wrong with having it come in. Like, I've got mine in a metal building. Mine comes up into my shop, and it comes up out of the ground and goes into the side of the shop, and the holding tank's inside there.
Okay.
And it's a great way to do it.
All right, perfect. Sheila is asking, what determines the kind of septic system needed?
Yep, it's going to be the registered sanitary, and typically it's ultimately determined by the PERC test, the percolation test. A lot of factors go into it, like the size of the land, the proximity to the home, the proximity to other homes, the proximity to a water well if there's one present, and the proximity to your neighbor's water well should they have one present. So those will start to determine how much land you actually have available for your septic application, whether it's a drain field on a conventional system, or a spray field on an aerobic surface application system, or a drip irrigation field on a aerobic drip system. That's what will determine that. The type of soil is the number one. So obviously the more sand, the better that it will percolate. So that kind of expands your options. When the sandier it is, the more high the clay content, the less and less options you're going to have. So that's really what determines it.
All right. And then we have Angel asking, can the superintendent provide an estimated schedule for building process? We have windows, door, and most recently plumbing, with electric possibly happening this week, but we'd like to know next steps, an idea of time frame the next steps will take place. Sure. We, of course, know that these are rough estimates, but we would like better plan for our next steps.
Yeah, as best we can, yes. What's frustrating right now, Angel, is still we've not worked all the way through the labor and supply chain issues. It's something new every single week, it seems. We'll get one thing, we'll get something solved in the industry, and then the next week, something else blows up. Barn doors is a weird one right now. Like 16-week lead times on barn doors. So anyway, all that to say, certainly reach out. I think Kelsey answered. You can reach out to your building superintendent, set up a time that you say, hey, I want to talk time frame. Maybe he may not have it on the spot, so don't be frustrated if he doesn't have it right there when he answers your call. But just say, hey, I'd like to set up a time to visit with you about some type of estimated schedule, kind of how, because they should have some idea, depending on what stage you are, of when they project to get that house completed. Because I promise you, they're being asked by the Tilson offices, like my team, Justin Ordno and his team, the construction vice presidents and the construction brass, if you will. Like, we want to know when they plan on finishing that home and closing it. So, and so we can communicate to the mortgage companies and our closing teams and you guys. So yeah, that's not unreasonable. But just kind of prep him and set him up. Say, hey, I'd like to have a little more in-depth discussion about estimated schedule when next time we talk.
Okay. All right. We've got Brandon asking, have you heard of a community well instead of each property having their own water?
We have. Yep, sure have. So that it's very, very common. And it works a lot like the water tap would. So if you had community water, it's kind of what I refer to that, or it's not an organized city maybe, but it is a larger community well. What I would look into with that, if you don't own the property yet, find out what the maintenance looks like, what your responsibility is, because typically if the well itself is shared, so is the maintenance on the well. And that's not uncommon. Where my uncle lives, where Eddie lives, they have a shared propane system. So it is a subdivision. They don't have natural gas, but they all have meters and they all share propane, which was kind of funny during Snowmageddon because they thought they were going to be good to go and all have propane. Only the roads were so iced over
everybody
in that part of Austin, the propane truck couldn't get up the hill to where the propane tanks were. So yeah, they froze.
No.
Hey,
hate that.
Issues.
Martina is asking, do we need to have any homeowners insurance or is any damage covered by Tilson, storms, fire?
All right. This is a great question, Martina.
This is a great question.
So yeah, we do carry builder's risk insurance, which most builders do not. They make the homeowner carry that. So we carry general liability insurance on our, just on the company, which covers the employees of the company, and then our contractors, agents of suppliers, that kind of stuff. Builder's risk insurance that covers storms, fire, that kind of stuff. It covers the materials that would go into building the home. It does not cover anything else on the property that is personal property of yours. So I still would have some type of policy, umbrella policy of some sort, something that if you have stuff out there, cover that. As far as the home goes, you don't need to worry about that. Our builder's risk insurance policy covers that. If the house were to burn down, we had to start all over. If a storm blew it out, a tornado takes it to 3 counties over, that's covered our builder's risk insurance. It stinks having to start all over, but you're covered. What's not covered is any guests, friends, family of yours you bring out there from an injury standpoint. Okay, so it's a job site. It's an active job site. There's stuff out there that can hurt people. There's nails, there's boards, there's fall hazards, and we take steps to mitigate that. But the reality is, it is a job site. So anybody you bring out there, or maybe you don't invite out there, they just trespass and go out there, that is something that you should have insurance for personally. So something to ask your insurance agent about. And then it's a very simple and inexpensive plans typically.
Okay, great. Monica is asking, I have a pipe fence and gate on my property. The gate is 14 feet across. Would I have to get the gate and fence redone so it'll be at least 16 feet across?
I'm not going to say yes, it has to be redone. What I'd like to do is, and if it hasn't happened already, maybe our site evaluation team can take a look at it. I get concerned with equipment turning. I know 16 feet sounds and feels like a lot when you're in a pickup truck or a car or a Suburban. It's not a lot when you are in an 18-wheeler.
Yeah.
Get that in and out of there. And that's your lumber is going to be delivered on an 18-wheeler. A lot of cases, the stone or hardy, that's all going to come on an 18-wheeler. So you're talking tractor, trailer, and they have to get in and be able to get.
What kind of road are they coming off of? How much leeway do they have there?
Can they unload from the road? I don't know. In a lot of cases, and what I don't know is if you have a pipe going up both sides and across the top, like one of those really pretty decorative entrances. If you do, and we can't get the truck in, let's say, and we have anything bigger than 14 feet we have to get in there, that could be a problem, right? And a lot of your engineered wood products will be longer than 14 feet. So just let our site evaluation team take a look at it. We don't like to have our customers have to do that, but let us take a look at it and see. And we maybe there's another place to access, on a side road or a different part of the fence that could be taken down. That's not taking down the beautiful interest you've already made. Maybe we can take down some of the barbed wire, 40 or 50 or 200 feet down and put a temporary 16-foot gate down there.
Okay.
There are other options.
Okay, great.
It's just for construction. It's just for the 10 to 12 months that we're building the home.
We don't want to mess up your nice stuff.
Yeah, we don't. We don't want to mess up your nice stuff. We don't even want to mess up your not so nice stuff. We don't want to mess up anything.
We don't mess up any of your stuff, but we particularly don't like to mess up nice stuff.
Yeah.
That's why we can't have nice things.
And there's something about nice stuff that attracts vehicles.
Yes, it attracts all the mischief. All the mischief. The stuff you wished we knocked down, we don't. All right. So Terry's asking, my property had a septic system. I don't know where or if it's workable. Would this cause a problem?
It could. It may not, but it could. So obviously we can't build the home on top of where the old septic system was, whether it was field lines, the septic tanks themselves. There's a chance if you knew where the other house used to be, that our site evaluation team, we might be able to help you locate all or part of that old septic system. The engineer may be able to locate it. They may find it when they're doing their soil test, or if they do a test pit, dig a test pit, they could find it then. And in which case, whenever we find it, that's when we'll have to deal with it. It would be a rare and extreme example that we didn't find it till we started digging the beams for the foundation. That has happened, where neither the homeowner didn't know about it, we didn't know about it. We got out there and started digging, and lo and behold, there's a septic system from the 1930s down there. You got to do something about it. But if you know approximately where the house was, and we can usually take that idea, look at our grade shots of where it goes downhill, and we can use deductive reasoning and figure out, because aerobic systems are
probably
fairly
where that
new.
is.
Yeah, things go downhill unless you pay money. That's how gravity works.
All right. Julie is asking, what stage of construction is the trigger for installing the septic system? We'll have septic and a storm shelter installed at the same time, so I want to give the septic company lots of notice to get us on their schedule.
All right. Well, be sure you don't mix the two up, Julie, whenever the storm comes.
Not good surprises, no.
Bad surprise, because they typically look identical. I'm telling you, they look the same. They're made out of the same. They manufacture the same place, out of the same stuff. So just choose the right door. They're smart. Don't worry about that. But going back to, it's typically when the outside of the house is done. So whatever brick, stone, hardy, all that, when that outside of that house is finished, that's the trigger for installing it. So you can call your building superintendent, ask them, hey, how close are we to that? They'll typically let you know, hey, now's the time to start contacting your septic person. But the good trigger is when the outside of the house is done. Yep.
That's when we stop bringing in the heaviest of the trucks. So we're least likely to damage your stuff. So let's see. Monica says, sorry, I had to step out. Can you just say, yes, I need the gate opening to be 16?
Whatever you need me to tell your husband, Monica, I will tell him. But
that is what we say. Can it be 16 foot or not? Is it okay at 14 feet? Basically, Monica, what we were saying, we need our site. We need somebody to lay eyes on it because we need to see what kind of room we have coming into that gate as well to determine if we can do that or if there's somewhere else that we can.
Yeah, we don't know how far off the road we are. But the best thing, let our site evaluation team take a look at it, and if it needs to be bigger, they will say so.
They're gonna let you know.
If we can make it work, we'll make it work.
All right. Well,
shall we do site planning?
Let's talk about site planning.
Let's do that.
So for the site planning and preparation process, you're going to have your site evaluation stakeout meeting. And that is when a team member is going to come out. We're going to put together a site plan. Sometimes they're fancy if the community requires it or the county requires it. Other times it's drawn like this, where it's kind of hand done. And then we're going to get to work on the site preparation of actually doing all that clearing and groundwork and all of that stuff. So the first step up is the site evaluation. So what's going to happen is one of our team members, our land prep specialist, is going to come out and visit your land. They're going to look at things like, is your gate big enough? Do we have proper access to the site? They're going to talk with you about the best placement for your home. They're going to have their recommendations, but if there is a certain view that you absolutely want, make sure you let them know. Just be open to them saying something like, well, if we go 2 feet this way, I think it'll save you a lot of money because of what I'm seeing and add a level. But they're also going to have your survey. So we're going to step out all of those invisible lines that we were talking about with your clearances, your easements, and your setbacks. They're going to talk to you about any additional needs for your property. So they're going to actually shoot the grades, that's the word, sorry, to see, how out of level are we? They're going to check all of that and let you know kind of what those adjustments are going to be. They're going to talk to you about any additional site clearing that needs to be done. So, if there's any trees that you want to keep, that they'll talk about if they need to go or if they need to stay. They'll talk about the access needs. So here's what we're going to need in order to get to the site. And they'll talk about permanent driveway placement, which might not be where your construction drive is going to be. The other thing they're going to do is take measurements on how far out the electric and water hookups will be. The power company tends to just put power wherever they want. Water, we sometimes have more say, so we'll talk about the best spots for that. And you're going to leave that meeting with a list of responsibilities. So you're going to get this pre-construction responsibility list that you see on the screen that kind of marks, here are the things that we still need you to do before this property is going to be ready for construction. And then we're going to draw out a site plan. This is a fancy version because that's what this community required us to do, but it's going to show you exactly where the home placement is, kind of superimposed on your rough kind of survey. So it's showing the actual home placement, exactly the GPS coordinates of where the outside is. It's going to show the location for the utility hookups, the lines, and the stubs. It's going to show the recommended septic placement and the spray field on that. Any driveways and culverts, and then it's going to have any building lines and easements noted, just to document that we are within them. That we are building where we're supposed to build.
Playing in bounds.
And then site clearing is we're going to need to remove any trees, stumps, and roots. We try to preserve as many as possible because we know that's why you bought that land, and we love trees too. But we also need to make sure that we're not going to jeopardize the foundation or the health of the remaining trees. A lot of times those root systems are hooked together, and if you take down one, the other one is just going to be a hazard later because it might die off. So we need to get all of that done. You are going to have to absolutely remove the stumps and any roots that are within the area where your foundation is going to be, because we don't want decaying material underneath your foundation. Groundwork is just any dirt work that needs to be done to prepare for construction, because we need to prep everything so your foundation is going on a level surface. The other thing that we're looking to accomplish at that time is establishing positive drainage so that all the water is going to run away from your home when we're doing that. And now we have done all the things. We are all prepped, and it is time for construction.
And now construction begins.
Now construction begins, which is a whole different set of questions.
Yes. So do ask your questions. So we know that we went a little bit long here. If you have questions, we do want to hear from you. We want to get your questions answered. So we'll do kind of a last call right now for questions or comments. Yep. And if they're nice comments, put them in there. If they're not nice comments, keep them to yourself, like your mama said. But if you got questions, ask them. We'd love to hear from you. We'll make sure you have all the information.
Julie was appreciating your septic versus storm shelter joke. We're here every Tuesday at 2. Septic will be behind the house downhill, and the tornado shelter will be just outside the front door because I don't want to run very far. So good plan. We thought it out.
That is smart.
Alfonso is asking, will the final interest rate based on the current rate or after the construction permanent interest rate, 10 to 12 months?
Okay, so it's going to be typically the final interest rate. Your interest rate's ordinarily locked in about 60 days prior to closing, 30 to 60 days out is when the interest rate is locked in. So a month or two prior to the completion of the home is when the interest rate gets locked in. Great question.
Yes, and do not lock your rate unless one of us somebody from Tilson agrees that it's a good idea to do so. That is one piece of advice. Yeah, be whatever.
Yeah, there's a lot of unpredictability, particularly there towards the end of getting stuff wrapped up, and we are not responsible for the rates, you not hitting a locked rate time because something we couldn't get. So that's a great point, Don.
Yeah, well, I only mention it because it is coming up a little bit now, because particularly if you're switching from one of our preferred lenders who are not used to built on your lot, they think that things are going to get done a lot faster than they are, and we've got some customers in a bad situation where they've rate locked when we did not agree. And that is actually the last question I see. So if you guys have any more, start typing.
Well, very, very cool. Well, we know that this is maybe not the most exciting part. It doesn't have all the pre-designed stuff that Don typically does and all the beautiful videos and the testimonials. But we also know that this is a part that you guys have, a lot of times need help with. And so we're, that's what this is for. We want you to get the most out of these lives at 2:00 and get your questions answered so that, or at least you can start the conversation to know what questions to ask your utility company, the power company, water company, septic designer, at least maybe not be 100% fluent in these things, but at least know enough to be able to hold a conversation with someone about what's expected and kind of the order of things. And if something pops up and you're like, that does not jive or make sense, call us, because we know that every county is a little bit different and every situation is a little bit different. Give us a holler. Let us come out there and take a look at it. We'll be glad to do that. So,
okay. Let's see. We have had a few questions pop in. Nora's asking, we've been given a time to meet with the builder in January. What can we expect then?
Okay, so you're going to have about probably 2 weeks before that, you'll have a pre-construction meeting. So you'll actually, the sales consultant, the builder, and you will meet on site to kind of go over a lot of the finality of these things, utilities, site access, again, just make sure that everybody's understanding who's doing what and what the timing of all that is, kind of frequency of communication, frequency of job site visits, kind of lay out some degree of the schedule of when things are going to start happening. And in the interim, we are still going to make another couple of trips out there. Probably our site evaluator will probably go back out there about 4 weeks out, just to kind of take a look at the site, make sure that the sign's still visible, that kind of good stuff. Make sure that everything's still in good working order. Make sure that the power and those things are where the power company said they were going to put them. We have discovered of late that where the homeowner and us decided things were going to go. Based on our site evaluation meeting, we left and we come back in January to start construction, and it's nowhere near where we just said they were going to be.
Surprise!
Not the homeowner's fault, not our fault. Just the power company, like Don said, comes in and said, nope, we're doing it over here. So we get out ahead of that so it doesn't cause delays. But those are the kind of things you can expect.
Okay, great. Terry is asking, so the estimated time until completion is 12 months?
Yeah, 10 to 12 months of construction, of actual construction. Some places it's taking a little longer. Some places it's taking shorter than that. It really depends specifically on the area where you're building.
Okay. We got Monica thanking us for the information. You're very welcome. We got Polly checking in from Grapetown. She's in the framing process. That's awesome. We've got Tom. Hello, Wayne. Well, we've got Wayne, I guess. Can you build multiple buildings on a 5-acre lot in Conroe?
We can. Yeah, we've done that before. Yeah. We don't know if it's in the city of Conroe or not. If it is in the city of Conroe, they're gonna have some things to say about that. If it's just in Montgomery County, yeah, we just design the septic to how you want to lay it out and go from there. But
okay, perfect. And then we've got Julie saying, thank you, always so helpful to watch these lives. Well, thanks, you, Julie. We appreciate you tuning in. And awesome. That is it.
Well, we are grateful for everyone who jumped in. Don, thanks for putting this together. Kelsey, thanks for monitoring the chat and doing all that. Thank each and every one of you for joining us every Tuesday in and Tuesday out. We are grateful that you come in and get information from us. And I see another question just popped in. So
yes. Is the construction of our home bonded?
No, it is not. Great question. Yeah, bonds are typically done for like commercial construction projects, and particularly for like municipal projects. So bonding would be it's a different level of insurance that guarantees that the project is completed by somebody else, even if something happens. And that's like if you're putting in water infrastructure for city of Conroe or city of Houston, they would require a bond be taken out on, but they're very, very costly. We haven't done one. I can't think of the last one we did where that was necessary. It's been decades.
Okay.
well, maybe a decade and a half. Maybe not quite 2 decades, but at least a decade and a half since we encountered one where a bond was actually required. But they are expensive.
Okay. All right.
But all that to say, great question. And we can look at all those kind of one-off things. We'd be glad to see you at one of our design centers. Of course, they're open 7 days a week. We got the website. We've got a Facebook page, YouTube channel with just tons and tons of information. All the color selection things. We got Instagram. We got lots and lots of educational videos for you guys. That's what they're there for. She asked about inspections now. So yes, our third party. Yeah. No matter where we're building, we will have third party inspections. That is something that we do that does differentiate us from some builders. There are no required inspections in rural areas of Texas in the counties. There is a code to build to, but there's no enforcement to it.
There's no one to enforce it.
Right. Yeah. So if you're in a city, obviously you're going to have city inspections, all that kind of good stuff. But no matter where we're building, we're going to have licensed third-party inspectors at the various stages. That goes for the actual building code itself, as well as energy inspections. Those are both done, and they're included in the price of the home. And that's not a negotiation. That's not an option. The home's going to be inspected. And by the way, it doesn't always pass. So we have to come out and fix some stuff.
So then we fix it.
That's why we do the inspections, because we're humans. So yes, great question. Yeah. And with that, I think we are done with the site prep part. If you have other questions, find us on any of those other mediums. Find us at our design center locations or the website. Great place to start. Tons of information there. We really, really hope you find these things useful, and we genuinely soon hope to make you part of the Tilson family. Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.